You don't know how to treat yourself. You're going to let other people treat you badly just because they are giving you the attention. Is the attention really worth the negativity for the rest of your life? That for me is a very, very big question I think everybody should be asking themselves.
She's no flower, but there's beauty in her power.
Hey guys, so I said I'm going to start shooting these videos in a higher quality, and this is finally it. I'm so glad to be able to do these videos in the way that I wanted to. It was quite a hectic setup, but I'm glad to be back. I'm going to be shooting a lot of content because I feel like there is so much information that we need to be sharing out here. The reason I'm starting with a song is because I think from now on I'm going to start with some music, because if you understand my love for music, you will understand my appreciation for these people who have gifts that just speak to my soul. So this song was called No Flowers by Dallas Tamara, I think his name is, but it's such a beautiful song, and it's so symbolic of how a woman is not perfect, but if she's appreciated in the right way, she will know exactly, she will do exactly what it is he needs from her. So that brings me to the topic of the day. Today, I want to talk a little bit about reciprocation. If you don't know what that word is, you need to learn it today, because it will save you from a mirage of heartache and pain for a very long time. I talk a lot about toxic relationships on my social media. If you don't follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, go and do it now. And my TikTok is also there, Melise Joget. But the reason I talk a lot about toxic relationships is because I feel like there's so many of us who get caught in toxicity over our lifetimes that we don't even know that it's happening to us. We kind of normalize what it is happening to us all of the time. But one of the most important aspects that don't show up in toxic relationships is reciprocation. And let me quantify that with an explanation. So to reciprocate something means that there's a give and a take, right? So if you're in a family relationship, family system, or in a relationship with a significant other, that the energy and the effort that you're putting in, you are receiving back from that person in the same way. And it may not be the same thing. So let's talk about love languages, for instance. For example, my love language is quality time. But there are other things that come in. So quality time for me is important, but I also love surprises. So if I am in a relationship with someone or in a friendship with someone, and they say their love language is words of affirmation, if I am affirming them regularly and going out of my way to make sure that I am meeting their love language, the reciprocation of that would be them spending quality time with me. It's a give and take situation. Toxic relationships, this does not exist at all. What ends up happening is those people take and take and take and take. So if you find yourself in relationships or situations where you are exhausted and depleted all of the time, where you are questioning yourself 24/7 about what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right, whether you are doing self-introspection consistently about how you can adjust yourself to make whatever situation you're in better, and you're not getting the same kind of feedback from that person or the same kind of attention from that person, you are highly likely in a toxic relationship. But back to the topic. So reciprocation is important, especially I think in parenting relationships. We make the mistake by believing that if we clothe and we feed our children, that we give them everything that they need. That is not everything they need. Your child could be living with you on the side of the road, and you could be giving them all the attention that they need, and they could still become healthy, productive people in the world. Giving your children food, clothing, and whatever it is they want over Christmas or New Year, or whatever their birthday, is not the same thing as giving them the attention they require. And the reason I mention our children is because as children ourselves, we learn that if we give more at some point, Headline: at some point, we're going to receive something back. And we start learning to do things because we are craving some version of attention that we didn't get in childhood. As adults, this is something we need to unlearn, and we need to unlearn it as early as possible. Because what will end up happening is we find people who take advantage of our giving nature. And if you're an empath like me, girl, boy, you're going to walk yourself into a massive trap and not even know it's happening until years later. So I'm on all these groups where people are going through a really hard time in their relationships, and they talk a lot about how they are feeling so drained and exhausted. I was in a situation where I ended up hospitalized with postpartum depression for the second time. But I couldn't understand why I was consistently tired, why I was consistently drained, and why my energy was being thrown into things that didn't really bring me personal value. And the reason why was because I was giving so much of myself, but I was receiving nothing in return. And if there was something that I was getting, it was literally the bare minimum. That is a massive red flag. If you are within friendships or your family systems, and you're finding that you're the person who's always doing the stuff, always starting the relationships, always planning the event, always wanting to be with everybody, you need to ask yourself the question: are you actually in a reciprocal relationship with these people, or are you just giving because you're hoping at some point, and some point could be never, at some point that you are going to receive something in return? One of the most important things to learn early on is that not all families are good, right? They can be good people, but they don't understand how family systems work, and don't understand that they are also not necessarily being reciprocal in relationships. If they're the kind of people that you can talk to about this kind of stuff and they can do adjustments in order to make these relationships better, then great. Then I say go ahead and do that. For most of us, however, that is not possible. We are unfortunately born into family systems where toxicity reigns within every other area of our lives. So we know that these conversations are just going to erupt in some sort of argument that is going to cause us more stress and strain down the line. And then we question ourselves about why we even decided to have this conversation in the first place. If you know you are in a family system that is built in that way, the best thing you can do for yourself is reciprocate for yourself. What are you going to do for yourself that brings healing in this area for you? You don't need this from anybody else. You don't need the external validation from the other people that you think are in your life. If you don't know how to treat yourself, and we hear this cliche a lot, if you don't know how to treat yourself, you're going to let other people treat you badly just because they are giving you the attention. Is the attention really worth the negativity for the rest of your life? That for me is a very, very big question I think everybody should be asking themselves. How much time am I spending valuing myself or self-validating myself that I don't need that same attention that I didn't get in childhood, or from the people in my life, or the same people reciprocating the efforts that I'm putting in for them? How often am I going to allow that to happen to a point where it drains me so much that I'm miserable? If you sat down and went through every relationship in your life, mother, father, sister, cousins, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, child, you need to really evaluate what the give and take in those relationships are. For those of us who have young children, we still have the opportunity to teach our children about reciprocation early, because what it will do for them in their older years is make them recognize when they are meeting someone who is not going to meet their needs, and prevent them from trying to meet that person's needs to a fault. It's very important as parents that we learn how to do this now, because we don't want to be at the end of the line with our children going through messy divorces, really struggling to deal with the toxicity that they found themselves in, because we didn't teach them what we now know. So do yourself a favor, find out a little bit more about reciprocation, why it is so important to understand what giving and taking means in relationships, but also what giving to yourself means first and foremost. The last few years we've spoken a lot about her finding her place and him finding his place and understanding your power. But this is where you understand your power. This is where you understand that understanding your own value and recognizing your own value, and then giving yourself what it is you need before you expect it from anyone else, in fact, is so important, because it's going to put you in a place in your life where there's joy above everything going on in the world, like pandemics and stuff. There is joy in the world that is experienced above the material possessions. So I hope this video helped. We'll talk a little bit more about some other topics in the next video. Love you guys.